How are we doing, guys, boys and girls? Welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast on a Monday night. We have the two Anthonys, myself and the good man, Anthony Dunn. He's on that side. And we will have Franny joining us as soon as he can get his Wi-Fi from down in Englandshire back up and running. Almost thought I had the worst issues when I lived in Shetland. Anthony, how you doing?
I'm very good, mate. It's always good to been looking forward to it all day. It's always better coming on after a win and a much improved second half performance. But all good, mate. As I say, I know we just thought kind of best just to make sure nobody's waiting too long for us tonight. But yep, Franny will be joining us soon. He's just typical tradesman, always late. But we're just I think he's just sorting his Wi-Fi. I think he's having some issue at the hotel that he's at, but sure he'll be with us just shortly.
I will indeed. He was on earlier with us, having we talked just pre-launch of the podcast. He's just having some technical difficulties just now. As you say there, Tony, Anthony, I don't know what way to call you. It sounds even weirder coming out Mammoth because it's my own name. We'll go with it. It's a much better feeling just now, so hopefully we'll get some positive chats tonight. There'll still be some negatives. I know what I'm like. But it's a lot better, as you say, coming on the back of a win and a good performance on the second half. Before we go further, though, I'm going to bring up the Super Six. We'll get this out the way so far. How the positions are stacked, I cannot tell from week to week, apart from the little plus and minus ones down there near the bottom. But up the top, we've got Mark Robert on 341, Stephen Coulthard, I guess that is, Alistair Jack, Joe Finlay, Kieran Gahuli, Ryan Taylor, Kevin Hampsey on 312 goals up against yourself, Anthony, at 309 in 8th place. James Bowie is 9th, and I can only assume cut off at the bottom there is our own Francis, if he does show up, which, lo and behold, there he is, Franny.
There he's there.
And he's away again. Look at that.
He's away.
I'll tell you what we'll do, guys, though. While we'll let Franny catch up with broadband, internet, Wi-Fi's, 5Gs and all the rest of it, here's what's coming up today on today's podcast. There you have it, boys and girls. That's what's coming up on tonight's game. And as we said at the start, it feels so much better, Anthony, doesn't it, coming on the back of a win? So,
absolutely does, mate. And as time was ticking away last night, as much as people are obviously feel like it's maybe been the same again. Another late win, but I do think this was sort of night and day from Easter Road, shall we say? Because I think Easter Road, the sort of collective kind of thought was, we've absolutely got away with one there. We've obviously, was no denying it was a penalty kick that night, but without doubt it was you felt like it's been a very lucky escape. Whereas yesterday, of course, first half was a complete video nasty compared to, kind of unfortunately quite similar to what we've seen a bit of recently. But second half, I just felt was night and day. Getting that ball in quicker, across either the low crosses for the wingers or the ball in from Taylor as well. Everyone just seemed to be going that little bit faster, and absolutely got the rewards in the end. 3-1 win in the end, but it's definitely one far more positive result than, or certainly felt more positive than even what some of the results have been recently.
No, definitely, Anthony. Definitely, as you say, it was the game of two halves. Really, the game itself for me started, and instantly I had that grinding negative attitude to watching the game from kickoff. Even it was passing the ball back the way. As soon as we're talking the first 10, 15 seconds, but once the ball got into the Motherwell half and we looked like we were going to attack, the ball went out for a throw-in. We went down the other side of the wing, we tried it again, and the ball went out for another throw-in. It was like, you can see how this day's going to go. It just felt like more the same in the first half. From those very first few seconds, it just didn't seem quite good. Going through the game though, first half itself, let's just kind of run through it a little bit. There was not a lot to be said from a Celtic point of view, apart from the negative sides. I noticed, obviously, was his name Theo Bair. He had the offside goal. The counter-attack and the strength and run on him, he absolutely left, likes the scales, left him for nothing. And he did it a few times in the first half, which was really telling. The fact that the goal was offside kind of let us off the hook a little bit. The constant passing of the ball sideways between Scales and Rocky, and even into Taylor and Alice Johnson, the whole backline just seemed devoid of any ideas to me of how to move the ball forward creatively. Then you had the issue of, was it Maida on the left and Mango's Kuhn on the right, and it was like people who can't pass from the back trying to pass it wide to two players who fundamentally can't control the ball, and it was just constant. This was the first half, and see, by the time the goal goes in and we get to half time, I was done, Anthony. I was absolutely done with that. That's built up from frustration though of, as you say, the Kilmarnock game earlier on, the Hibs game where we kind of snuck the win late on, and just the general season overall. It really had me at the point at halftime, just wanted to chuck it, and I was not looking forward to this podcast at all at that point. Yourself, did you feel that mood inside you? Did you feel that same way as I was feeling, kind of build up, thinking that more the same, this is not changing, we're not turning this corner?
Yeah, but it definitely felt that way for a while. Like you say, we just weren't at the races at all in the first half, and like you say, Motherwell, and not even just that. I've got to give the likes of Blair Spittle and Miller as well. They were having, they were getting a lot of joy as well, and there's no doubt that they're a talented young side. Stuart Kettlewell's building something decent there, but it was just the fact that we kind of hoped that if we'd have started the game the way we played in the second half, I think we would have been going into half time a lot happier. But it just felt like the same old story, what we've had for the last wee while, that kind of malaise setting in. And thankfully, it didn't come to anything, but it just, but yeah, a very poor first half, Anthony, and you summed it up well. It just seemed, I think Brendan used the term connecting the game. It was just one part of the team couldn't find the other with a couple of simple passes. And even, there was a lot of simple passes getting made that were being overran. Kuhn definitely made a couple of them. A simple pass into Callum McGregor, and he somehow overhit it from about 3-4 yards. And it's just those little bits of play that are so frustrating. The one kind of real good bit of football, you would argue, would be the pass from Callum into the box for Kyogo to run onto. That was like the kind of old school kind of Kyogo kind of movement, and fair play. The goalkeeper made a good save. Is it Liam Kelly? But apart from that, we never really threatened at all, and Motherwell had absolutely the better of the chances. Obviously, like you say, they had the ball in the net early doors, and then scored. Have to give credit to them. Fantastic finish right on half time as well. So yeah, long-winded way answering your question, Anthony. I definitely at half time you were thinking this is going to take a hell of a lot to turn this round, and we have to say thankfully we did.
Aye, definitely. Thankfully we did. Let's talk about the goal, the actual goal that's counted for Motherwell in itself. Defensively, I found we were all over the place. It was down our left side, their right side. And the guy gets away, was it Scales he gets away from first? And then the next player kind of does a twirl and dances around McGregor and just leaves him like high and dry. And you don't expect that from, a defender who's played the entirety of this season and your captain to be, for lack of better terms, looking like mugs in the way that they kind of got schooled there. The shot itself, once it passes through to the young lad on the edge of the D, was it? He gets the ball, right-footed shot, beyond Joe Hart. On a better day, maybe Hart catches that ball, gets a hand to it and tips it around the post, but that's been a bit too nitpicking, a bit too harsh on Hart. He was at pretty much full stretch. You can't really be too thoughtful on him. But the goal and the strike itself, from a Motherwell point of view, I thought was quite a good goal from their point. Defensively, from ours, though, absolutely atrocious. And again, that just reiterated that feeling to me, especially going into half-time, that this is not going to be our day.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt that way. And obviously the guys on Friday night were discussing that and saying, it could be a long day at the office. And at that point, absolutely, that's exactly how it felt it was going to be. And but yeah, defensive. I mean, I suppose, like you say, the attacking team that get the goal, they'll say great finish. The team that concedes will always moan about what we did or didn't do. But yeah, I think that's fair. We just didn't deal with it at all. And like you say, it's not often that you see Calmac getting skint like that, but I mean, he definitely was. Obviously down the left-hand side as well. But got to give, I think, is it Miller that actually done the spin and then laid it off for Blair Spittle. Once he does the little, the Anthony 360 turn, and the only difference being it was actually effective. Sorry, but once he's done that, a lot of young players would just kind of, have a, just take a wild shot at it, and the rush of blood to the head. But no, he lovely kind of passed to Blair Spittle. All the pace on it, he didn't. He just had to direct it. And I think that's probably why I don't blame too much, apportion too much blame to Joe, because I think there's so much, the pace is just the right amount that all he has to do is kind of guide it. And if he gets it right, then it's always going to have a good chance of reaching the back of the net. So, but yeah, you could say our centre half should be closer to him as well. But I'm probably in a mood where I'm, because of the end result, I'm happy to give a bit more credit. So yeah. Credit to Motherwell for their finish.
No, I can appreciate that and get the same kind of sentiment. It's easier to talk about it with a smile on your face and congratulate them on it. What was a very good goal, the turn from the young lad and the shot itself. It was a good goal from their perspective, but we need to be realistic about ourselves. At that point in our season, that's a disaster. That is absolutely shocking. We go into the halftime though. Let's not dwell on it too much because we want to keep it this positive. But we go into halftime and we see that we've made a halftime substitution, which was not quite too surprising that we may have done that. But maybe what was surprising that Kyle came off for Adam Idah. What was your thinking there?
Yeah, well, at the start, I mean, when the halftime was going on, I was doing the usual, well, apart from muttering a few obscenities in the kitchen, I was also making myself a cup of tea for the second half. So I ended up missing the point when it came on, and so when I'd heard the point that basically it's maybe been for a knock, I did think, oh, thanks very much, Plunge. Hope you're enjoying. I'm trying to do one every week, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, but when Kyogo went off, I thought, oh, maybe it's been from the knock to his shoulder, and that's definitely what the commentary team seemed to think. But then at full time, when more on Brendan's post-match interview later, but it did seem to be that it was more a tactical switch, and obviously at the time you think, oh, this is going to be a huge gamble absolute huge gamble. Oh, are we making a dramatic substitution here, Anthony?
We are.
Oh, Big Brother is in the building.
Well, lads, what's happening?
They lost Franny, and in comes a beloved Stephen. How you doing, Stephen?
Absolutely. This is a Kyogo for Idah swap here, or vice versa. Absolutely. Good to have you on, mate. Yeah.
I take it that's because of marriage, is it, Anthony?
That's it, exactly. But no, you were absolutely bang on, Anthony. Just to finish there, it was a huge. There is an argument to say, and of course this narrative's been building for a while, and I have tried to my best to keep where possible to push back against it. But I think where we have went on and lost that game yesterday, we'll go worst case scenario if we'd have lost it, 5 behind with Ibrox looming, and with the mood as it was in the stands at the minute, it's probably not over egging the pudding to suggest that maybe Brendan did have 45 minutes to save the season, save his skin essentially. So it was a huge gamble taking off guy who's been our talisman for the last couple of years, and but it's a gamble that absolutely paid off, and I think Idah deserves a lot of credit, and obviously we're going to discuss him more in depth later, but I thought he was absolutely sensational when he came on. Not just the goals, but his overall play. It was like, let's just say, he looked quality.
He did. He definitely did. Before we delve into the second half too much, Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I was actually just having a wee cup of tea and ready to watch you guys, and then Franny was having some difficulty, so I just said to him, do you want me to jump on? It's just unfortunate. I know he was looking forward to coming on discussing the game of the weekend, but obviously crap hotel Wi-Fi and his 5G wasn't working, so here I am. I'm the Idah, he's the Kyogo, so we'll see what happens.
Always a pleasure to share a screen with you, my friend.
You too, my man. It seems like we're never on together again, but sure.
I know. It's very much like the old days, the wrestling. I think we're Monday Night Raw, you're Friday Night SmackDown now a lot. So what can you do? But hopefully we might end up together on a double pivot soon.
Exactly. I was actually watching McGinty, and your cup has some interesting words down it. Is that a wrestling cup?
No.
I thought that was the Shield. No, the Shield.
I just look at it.
It's a mug that I got when I left Shetland from working at the airport.
Right, okay.
In the I can't remember whatever alphabet they call that.
Phonetics.
Phonetic. That's it.
But yeah, doing good. Looking forward to discussing the game and that, and getting stuck in as always.
So give us, Stephen. We've only just rounded off the first half and the fact that we made a substitution at half time. Give us your feeling on the first half itself. How did you feel about the game as a whole, getting to the half time, being 1-0 down?
Anthony's laughing at me already. I think for me that the first half was probably the worst we played all season. First of all, the Motherwell pitch was actually pathetic. They usually have a good surface. It was borderline Celtic Park, to be fair, on bobbly surface, and I think the ball wasn't keeping on the ground very well. But again, that's no excuse for professional footballers. I just thought it was a team that didn't look together, and again, that's a stark contrast to the second half. Obviously, words at half time and a few substitutions changed that, but it was so disjointed. It was so lackluster. We were passive. We weren't aggressive, and I felt like for me, every time Motherwell strung a few passes together, they looked like they were going to cause us issues. And they were caught, like your man Theo Burr, for example, he was at St Johnstone last season. I think he scored 1 goal. But look, again, this is me doing SPFL watch. Every time I seen him, I always liked the look of him. He was a big target man. He was quick. He was pacey. And I think at Motherwell, he's in double figures this season already, which is just testament to him and also the style that they play there to suit him. I thought he causes a lot of issues. The wee lad Veal, I think it was Jack Veal, he was lightning in behind, and we were kind of struggling to deal with that. I know we had all the possession and all the stats. It looks pretty and all that type of stuff, but the clear-cut chances were on Motherwell's side. That they could have had 2 or 3 goals in the first half and a couple of good saves from Joe Hart. And I just thought, to say about Kyogo, he wasn't really offering much. But again, then Brendan alludes to it. His game is the running behind, but it seems like we've took that away from him. We've took the style of play to get him into games. away, and no wonder he looks nullified. Obviously, a low block plays into that, but I think Celtic can be quicker with the ball to create gaps and create spaces for him. And I just thought the first half was just. And I heard you saying, McGinty, before come on, you were just done. You weren't looking forward to the day at all, the podcast. And that's how I felt. And there was a lot of calls at halftime. Now, I don't really go on my phone during a football match because of obvious reasons. I'll just react off the cuff and start mayhem. So I'll just stay away from it. And I went on Twitter later that night when I had some free time. And I've seen all the posts from different individuals saying about the halftime performance. Roger should walk, Roger should go, all that type of stuff. And again, it's emotion. But then you fast forward that 45 minutes, it's jubilation, it's celebration. And we're saying the fight's still on for the title. So it was the definition of the game of two halves. But Celtic need to produce a 90-minute performance like that. We can't go through the season labouring in the first or second half and kind of just passing their way through games or just being slow, being non-energetic, no enthusiasm, and then the next half we're the totally different opposite side to that. We need to produce a consistent performance, and then hopefully league results start coming more frequently and more better results too in terms of goals scored. I know we're behind a goal difference at the minute, so again, with the way this title race is going, we need to be on top and stop conceding goals and also score more.
100% definitely. And as you say, that first half, things were slow, passes weren't connecting properly. But once we get into the second half, there's a bit of a change-up with Idah coming on, of course. But it looks like the team plays differently from the first half at least. And if anything, I think that second half performance could have really suited Kyogo. Even taking, let's just look at his first goal. It was a ball from Scales, funnily enough, passing it forward to Taylor, who gets in an early cross. Lofty cross comes in, and Adam Idah doesn't need to jump too much. He gets the head on it, and he puts it in the back of the net. It was a good bit of play, a good bit of let's just pass forward, let's just make the first touch, make the first cross. There's no dillying on the ball, no waiting to see who's making runs in. It was just go through the motion, do the action, just get there, and you know that your counterpart's going to be in the right place to be on the end of the ball. Anthony, back to yourself. What did you think about the goal, especially when you think about how we play with Scales in the backline, passing the ball sideways a lot? All of a sudden, it was changed to forward passes very early on in that second half.
Yeah, but like you say, it was great just to see that change straight away. And what I loved about it was it reminded, although obviously it was a volley from O'Reilly in that 90 plus 7th minute winner when we played them there back in the autumn. It was that similar thing with Taylor, where it was like he picked it up, one quick look, ball in. There was no sort of overthinking it or trying to be too clever with it. It was just get the ball in and we'll see what happens. And that's two brilliant assists that he's picked up at Fir Park this season that have proved to be really effective. But the goal itself, brilliant movement from Idah as well. I was messaging my big brother and my big sister going, obviously with the big man on the commentary, I'm going, that big Sutton himself would have been proud of that. And it was just that getting that wee bit bravery, getting in front of the defender, and there was enough pace on the cross that he was able to direct it, but it was still brilliant header to get it into the far corner as well. And Liam Kelly been having he's had a decent game after that as well, but he had no chance for that finish. So that's what he brings. I think it's probably what we hoped that O would be able to bring us a bit more frequently off, but Idah just at the moment seems to have a bit more between the teeth and a bit more of a presence about him. And absolutely, full credit to him. Great finish, and it kind of kicked us on a bit. It kind of got the adrenaline going again a little bit, and generally after that, I felt that we absolutely controlled the game. And obviously, when the wingers changed as well, it was about getting the ball across quicker. But in terms of that moment itself, absolutely terrific for Adam Idah and Greg Taylor.
Definitely. I think he deserved that goal as well to kind of take the pressure off him, because he scored the penalties previously. This is his goals now coming in game, creating something different and spurring the side on to play a lot better. And it wasn't just Adam Idah who done it all himself. So I think the whole team got a lift, didn't it, Stephen? You start looking at guys like Alistair Johnson. He loses the face mask. All of a sudden, he starts inventing a little bit more, and he's playing a lot more 1-2 passes on the right. As Anthony mentions, we changed the wingers up. You get Yang on the right, who looked a lot more lively. Stephen, overall, between the first goal with the equaliser and just before we get to the second goal, how did you see the shape up of the second half? Did you feel we were building into something?
We had no choice but to build into something. We needed to come out strong in that second half and react to the situation that we put ourselves in. And by the way, that Motherwell goal was a fantastic goal. I think your wee man, and I heard you, Anthony, were speaking about it, Lennon Miller. I think he looks a fantastic midfield player, and he played that ball to Spittle. First time finish, and Joe Hart had no chance. And I thought their midfield was very effective, especially in the first half. And most of them are young boys too, so it's a credit to them and also the Motherwell Youth Academy for producing them type of players. But in regards to us, Jed Thomas in the comments said about Yang coming on. I thought he made a massive difference. He was so direct. He was so trying to take on his man. He wasn't hiding from the ball. And look, Nicholas Kuhn, I don't know what's going on, but we've paid over €3 million, if we're led to believe, to Rapid Vienna. Rapid Vienna also took near €4 million off us for Bolingoli. They must be laughing. Do you know what I mean? They've robbed us so far. Look, I don't want to write off Kuhn, but at the moment he doesn't look like he's gonna make the grade at Celtic. And Anthony dropped out, but he's back in there now. I'm in the top screen here. Don't know how that happened, but yeah, I mean, the difference with the second half was we were more direct. We were cutting out the needless 4 or 5 touches before we got rid of the ball. You made a good point. The centre back got it into Taylor, and he just looks up, first time ball into the box. And when you've got someone like Idah in there, 6 foot plus, bit of a unit, and he's going to get on the end of things. And look, football is a game complicated by idiots, isn't it? That's the famous phrase. It's simple in its way. Like it's you play the game, you play to win. And I thought Greg Taylor done a fantastic assist, and Alameda, to be fair to him, a great header, just getting that on target past Liam Kelly. And I find it quite interesting as well. You look back at Rodgers' first time, like it was Dembele, towards the end it was Edouard, the likes of Griffiths. Exactly. The likes of Griffiths got phased out. The kind of pacey striker, smaller in stature. I don't think Rodgers is too keen. I don't know if this is a trend. I know at Leicester he had Vardy, but Vardy in itself was a bona fide superstar for Leicester City. I know Kyogo is that for us, but you understand what I'm trying to say here. And towards the end, he started playing Iheanacho for that physical presence before he left the job at Leicester City. So I don't know if he prefers that physical type striker who can hold the ball up and bring others into play, because he's waxed lyrical about Alameda since he's come in. We've all been a bit dismissive, not saying everyone this podcast has, but me certainly, and some of the Celtic supporters that I see writing on Twitter and other podcasts that I do watch are dismissive because it's the third choice Norwich City striker. And I think we all have to be comfortable in the idea that he wasn't high up on our recruitment list. I think this was just a scramble to see who was available towards the latter end of the transfer window. And so far, he scored 4 goals, and he's won us, I think, 4 points or something like that. In games against Hibs and at the weekend there, he won us the game at Fir Park against Motherwell. So yeah, it's just an interesting kind of trend that I'm seeing, because we love Kyogo, but does Rodgers love Kyogo like we do? Does Rodgers love Kyogo like Postecoglou did? I don't think that relationship's quite there, and I think Kyogo looks a bit frustrated every time he's on that pitch. He's making runs, no one's finding him, and you can understand why your head will go down after that. And it's one of these things. Sometimes you just have to make that change and see where it goes. And at the minute, I would have to say it's Alameda's shirt to lose. Do you know what I mean? I think he's the one who's come in. He's the one he's stood up and been counted, scored the penalties, and a cracking header as well. So, look, again, I want to reiterate, I love Kyogo, but I don't think Rodgers has that same affinity with him.
No, I can see where you're going with that. And see what you're saying. He's definitely fits into the system that Brendan Rodgers tries to play a lot better than Kyogo does. But for me, the change in how we actually played, the tempo, the intensity, the forward passing that we were doing the second half compared to the first half and most of the season, that wasn't just because the striker changed. That was everybody else doing their jobs properly. So why are they not doing it when Kyogo's on? I'm not saying that change was the catalyst. Not at all. Something else was probably said in the dressing room, no doubt. But whatever was said in the dressing room, regardless of the striker, the players need to play like that every minute of every game from here on out going forward, not just for this season, but forevermore as far as I'm concerned. Because all the backwards, sideways, slow, lethargic passing, building up, people standing still. It was Charlie Mulgrew on Sky kind of said he feels it's the opposite, that players are trying to move too much and nobody's in a position where they should be because they're trying too hard. I think he's being a bit too nice to them at times. But they need to get on board with playing the way that they need to play to to suit the team as a whole overall, because the balls that were coming in the second half yesterday, some of them were fantastic for Adam Idah as he gets his goal. Some of them were laid out on a plate for Maeda, as we saw with Alistair Johnson at one point gets to the byline and he almost cuts it across the face of the goal, across the 6-yard box. And Maeda, I think 3 times in total, definitely twice. One time in the first half, he tries to go in with a header when it's about knee high. God knows why. Another one, he comes in and he just needs to turn it in, and he's so unlucky not to. And I think the third one, he's a bit further out and he takes it on the half volley and he just goes, it kind of belts straight across the ground and kind of rises slightly and goes out anyway. None of which were bad moments or bad shots. I think it's just unlucky. But see if guys like Dias and Maeda can get into those positions now, and especially in the second half. So can Kyogo. So why aren't we doing it more often? And I'm not going to say Idah or Kyogo is the catalyst for that change, but why are we not doing that more often? Because that second half performance for me, guys, was a breath of fresh air for this whole season. This was football the way we should have been seeing football all season.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with you, mate. And I think I think if you'd probably ask Brendan and you know away from the cameras, that's probably the way we played second half is how he wants the team to play. And the amount of times, like, especially the last few weeks, I know people are saying, it isn't the same way that Ange plays, and of course it's not. It is different, but there's elements of it that are similar in terms of he is wanting the ball played quicker to what the team have been doing on the park as well. The amount of times I've seen him, as I say, I'm very fortunate. I'm really close to the Celtic dugout where I sit, and the amount of times you can see and hear him going, especially last week against Kilmarnock, he was going off his head at how some of these is the kind of passing that Stephen alluded to there, the 4 or 5, none of them forward, it's all sideways or back. He was going absolutely crazy at certain points. So I think maybe the penny's just finally dropping with these guys, and like you say, I think Yang seems more confident at taking players on, which is a good thing. And Maeda, for all his faults, and there are many. Let's no beat about the bush. But he's good at being able to, he's got the pace to get behind a man. So the amount of times, I know he missed a lot of good chances yesterday, but like you say, Anthony, the fact that he was getting into those positions in the first place suggested he was at least doing something right. And I think that's probably, if you to ask the manager, that's how I want. If Idah's on, I want Taylor flinging those balls into the box at the earliest possible opportunity, or regardless whether it's Idah or Kyogo, I want my wingers to get the ball and get those crosses in, because even if the first attempt doesn't work, the fact that if you can get a cross in the box and the defenders don't like defending against, who knows who it can fall to. The amount of times, in the last couple of years where maybe the first cross hasn't worked, but the ball's ended up bouncing. I mean, that's how Abad has scored half of his goals. Just being in the right place at the right time to get a rebound or something like that. And it puts defence, when defences don't know what's coming next, that's always plays to our strengths. And like we say, it was by no means the full blown, traditional Celtic that we're used to yesterday, but it was definitely more of what we want to see. And I think, watching Sports Scene last night, Michael Stewart summed it up perfectly for me. It was a great phrase. The second half was what he would deem it as a recovery in its infancy, and I would totally agree with it. But it's important that we build on that. We can't have that great 45 minutes, second 45 minutes against Motherwell, and then go back to what we've been seeing for the last few weeks. You want them to start that way, and if you generally start that way at Celtic Park, more often than not, you're going to have a pretty comfortable evening.
You would do indeed, and as it kind of turned out, coming to the injury time minutes, we get the second and the third goal quite quickly. So let's talk about them both together quite quickly to get some sort of parallel to how that happened. As we say, the cross is coming from Taylor and even from Alistair Johnson. The second goal comes from a Alistair Johnson starting to invert a little bit more. He comes into the middle. He eventually gets down to the byline. I'm trying to read at the same time to memorise half the tips here. But it's the short passes that are starting to happen, and he gets across it into Idah, who instinctively just turns it in. Now, that goal there, for me, could have been Kyogo, could have been Dyson Maeda, could have been Giakoumakis, for all we know. That doesn't matter who the striker is. For me, that was a nice little bit of play, and it was reminiscent of us playing attacking football on the front foot and actually being confident and knowing, again, like I said earlier, knowing where your counterparts are going to be, knowing that other people are waiting for your shot to come in, and anybody would turn that into the back of the net if they're unconfident. And Adam Idah is, and he gets his goal. Stephen, for yourself, how did you feel about the second goal there?
I mean, one of the most amazing things of that game anyway was the second and third goal would if you go back to Postecoglou, it's how Celtic crossed the ball, low driven balls into the box. It was either Kyogo making that first run across the defender, he was getting it in, or if it been past him, it was Maeda following up, and at this time it was Palma. But I thought the movement from Idah was brilliant. I keep going between Idah and Idah. I keep getting mixed up all the time. But I think that his confidence is obviously sky high. He looks like he's ready to take that mantelpiece of that number 9, the cliche term, and go forward. I thought Alistair Johnson was pivotal, obviously, in both them goals as well. He came on the game and he took off that mask. I don't think anyone wears a mask quite like McGregor did at time, Captain Sorrow, as he was for us back then. But it was quite reminiscent, and I like what Anthony said about it's how Rodgers would want his teams to play. That fast, the athleticism, the pace, the movement, the forward running, the first touch passing instead of Liam Scales and whoever it was taking 4 or 5 touches out of the ball and kind of killing the movement. So yeah, the overall finish for Idah was brilliant, and I like seeing them type of goals because at the end of the day, we need. Yes, he's a physical presence, but he can also play with his feet, and it's good to see the variation of the crosses as well. Because Kyogo, if we're going to bring him into the game, we need to be doing that more often. Low cross balls into the box. Let him make them runs that he's so used to making instead of him coming deep and nullifying his game. And I get the whole argument, play him in the 10 and link up, and he's not as effective there. He just isn't. The wee man needs to be in the box. He needs to be there scoring the goals like he has been for the last 2.5 years. And I fully believe he will recapture that form. But yeah, it was good to see that second goal go in. And I just thought again to kind of go back to it, getting across the defender, making that run, and not kind of waiting on the ball come to you, which I thought in the first half is what most of the fucking players were doing. They were waiting the ball coming to them as they weren't kind of forcing the issue. And Adam Idah definitely did.
Definitely, I'm saying, and Anthony, same with the third goal. I think it echoes what Stephen was saying there as well. It was fast moving. The ball was getting played forward, and the cross, even from the right side to the left side, it was all started from Palma actually on the left side, who passes the ball quickly into Matt O'Reilly, who doesn't delay on the ball too long and gets out to the right, well, the edge of the 18-yard box on the right side to Yang, who does a first touch cross again. Kind of almost a wee curve on it, but across the face of the goal. And it's just straight in instinctively to Palmer, who's continued that run from the left side. And again, turns it into the back of the net, takes a shirt off, happily takes the booking for his message on his T-shirt, which I'm all fine with. But again, it's reminiscent of probably, as you say, the way Rodgers wants his team to play, but definitely for us, the way we're used to seeing the last 2 years with Ange, where everybody's moving forward in a unison and the balls are getting spread across the pitch and across the face of the goal, where anything can happen. I mean, even if Palmer didn't get in the end of that, or if he hit the post or hit the goalkeeper, it's fallen to Adam Idah or back to Yang again, who knocks it back in anyway. How do you think with the third goal?
Oh, it was another great bit of playing. What I loved about it is the fact as well as I know they were kind of joking about it because obviously there's 6 minutes added on, and we scored in the 4th minute. But so that naturally, obviously, with the celebrations and whatever, Chris Sutton was kind of half joking about the fact that well, the game's not over yet. We know what we've been. This isn't our first rodeo with Celtic this season. With getting what we think's a late winner and then getting pulled back again. But and I jokingly put it in the group chat yesterday when it went in. It was just we never stop. That's the way it should be. It's let's go get another one. It's that kind of ruthlessness that seemed to return to the side yesterday, and yeah, absolutely, it's it doesn't need to be slow or laboured. Like you say, Palma, O'Reilly, Yang, Palma, goal. That, that's it. Just when Celtic play that kind of one touch, kind of fast paced football, there's not a team, not a defence in this league that can live with it. And that's what it was just great seeing again. But I have to just for the second goal as well, because honestly, again, I know I put it in the group chat last night. Absolutely terrific. That finish is not an easy finish to take for Adam Idah. And the way that he's just controlled it, as I say, doesn't need to take a touch or anything, and he's just taking it away for the Motherwell keeper. It was an absolutely tremendous goal. And like I say, he is absolutely. I think whilst he's perhaps not been, this big huge presence straight away, but he's came off the bench. Well, he started at Easter Road, and came off the bench yesterday. He's came up trumps with two double goals and two massive away fixtures. For me, I think Steve could be right. The shirt might be his to, he might be the one to start on Wednesday night.
I think as well, if being no mistake, sorry, McGinley, being no mistake, if this was under Postecoglou, it would be we never stop. And that would be the mantra that would be getting portrayed out. I think, again, it's just that you look back in the previous games and the issues and not seeing the game through, conceding sloppy goals and all the kind of tactical issues within that, and the boardroom and the transfer windows all mixed into one. You lose sight of that. I mean, look, we're 2 points behind the title race, but this could be a pivotal moment. And I'm not going to get carried away and say we're going to carry this form on or we're going to carry this into the next 2 or 3 games. I'm yet to believe that myself here has that much confidence that we're going to do that. But it was nice to see the fruits of the labour kind of come through in that second half. And you can kind of see a tactical identity in how Rodgers wants the team to play. And I want to see that now carried on in the next couple of games to see if we can continue that. And as I say, score more goals. I think it's easy to forget that even under Postecoglou, we had tight games. Dingwall, Abada got a last-minute goal against Dundee United at Celtic Park. There was games we played crap in, but again, it was married with success. We were winning trophies and things like that. We didn't kind of give away an 8-point lead, and now we're behind 2 points at 10-point swing. So yeah, there's frustration there, but also I think people have to keep in their minds this could be a turning point, and again, it would be the "we never stop" mantra if it was under the previous regime.
No, definitely would be, and I have to echo and side with you all. If we take that performance from the second half and continue it now into Wednesday and throughout into the season, I think it is what we say earlier on, the kind of Neil Lennon 3-3 Kelly game kind of moment where maybe Anthony was 45 minutes away from getting his book handed to him, sort of thing. Not realistically, but it felt like that moment. So overall, I think that second half was a great performance. As you say, Stephen, our never stop moment, we never stop moment. And hopefully we continue that mantra through it. One guy, as we have said quite a lot tonight so far, who might help carry us through that is Adam Idah. So let's talk about him just a little bit more out with the game itself. The Adam Idah, what would you pay for him, guys? Keep in mind he doesn't have, I know. Keep in mind he doesn't have a buy option. So we can't turn around and say, it'll be worth the £5 or £6 million that we've got as an option to buy. Norwich hold all the cards here. If he bangs in the goals as he has been doing so far, it could end up easily with double figures. Would you sign him if he hits 10? And how many goals does it take for you to want to sign him? And how much money would you spend on him? Keep in mind, is he going to take over from Gyogo and all that other stuff?
For me, McGinley, this conversation is premature. And I think premature. I think, I mean, we were having this discussion a few weeks back about Bernardo. He scored 3 goals in 4 games. He had 2 assists within that time period. And people were saying, pay the money, get him in now. He's going to be a baller, but he's kind of dropped off the face of the earth and he's coming in again as a bit part player. Adam Idah is doing a good job at affecting games, affecting outcomes at the minute, right? That's fantastic. But the fact that we have no option to buy tells me that we've no real plan for him for the future. I think if we really wanted him, we would kind of get that deal done where we have the option to buy it at a certain fee, but we don't have that. And at the end of the day, he was a third-rate striker at Norwich City. So I think they would have easily agreed to that if we come up with a 4 to 5 million fee, and kind of if he hit 10 goals to 12 goals, that would be fantastic. Yes, and I know it's waxing lyrical like Rodgers has been about Adam Idah, but he hasn't done enough to tell me that he's going to be our number 9 for years to come. If that makes sense. Yes, he scored a header and he scored a great goal with his right foot coming across the defender, and the 2 penalty kicks under pressure. That's well and good, but at the minute I wouldn't sign him. For the simple reason because I think this summer is going to be massive. It's going to be huge in the goalkeeping department, the left back department, and I think Rodgers knows this within himself. Adam Idah to me is a stopgap. It's a stopgap because we didn't have a plan in place to get that striker in who we actually really wanted. If we're led to believe by the PLC reports and the intern reports, they identified targets, but they couldn't get the deals over the line, whatever the case may be with the parent clubs. And you can probably guess there was a striker within that. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't take Adam Idah and I think Plunge McNugget in here, maybe for £3 million and have him there as an option. Yeah, possibly, but to be brought in and to hang your hat on him, nah, it's too early for me. Because, as I said, I kind of contradict myself a bit. I like the impact he's having, but that impact can die off. Bernardo's impact has died off, and we were talking about signing him for £6 million. So, nah, not for me at the minute. That's where the stance is at the minute for Adam Idah on a permanent basis anyway.
What about yourself, Anthony, then? Taking on board what Stephen's saying, that Adam Idah's game could turn around and he might not be as influential. Would you want the club to be scouting somebody else, doing the homework properly, try and recruit another striker, so let's say in the £6-7 million bracket, and bring in somebody who is ready-made, Giacomakis kind of stature and experience-wise? Or would you push the boat out and get Adam Idah? For me, I think, just to add a wee bit onto what Stephen was saying with Norwich and not having the buy now option, I think Norwich were dictating that more than us. And I do agree that Adam Idah was not our first choice striker at all, but I do believe that he is a Rodgers kind of player, and Rodgers is taking quite nicely to him. So if Rodgers wants him for next season, would you take him? Would you argue for him? Where do you sit with that kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen's making a few good points there as well. I mean, listen, yesterday afternoon I was screaming where he wants his statue, let alone would I sign him.
So you are
bringing himself into folklore. It nearly cost me 2 cats, right enough, because I think I gave the two of them a heart attack when the second goal went in. But no, listen, it's bang on. And in terms of, you know, who would we want going forward? I think James said it in the comments there that he's a type of player that, as we've already mentioned, that Rodgers does traditionally tend to go for. He's big, he's athletic, and well, he's got an eye for goal as well, which is always useful. But he's absolutely not our first choice. I think it was, you know, it's not, you know, it's the worst kept secret that I think, I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Kviz Martin, or if that's his name, from Brøndby?
Oh yeah, the Danish guy.
Yeah, that seems to be Brendan's number 1 choice, and by all accounts, the inquiry was made. Brøndby are happy to sell, and it would be for, you know, I don't think it'd be just short of our club rate. I think they're saying, was it 8 million? The deal would be potentially a goer for in the summer, but there was no chance that they were selling him in January. So you're left with a conundrum there. Do you then go and spend? And Stephen's bang on, regardless of who comes in and who doesn't, there is going to be a big turnover of players in the summer, and certainly we've got everything crossed that the players that come in this time are the guys that the manager wants. And you know, I think we've got more than enough projects in the squad at the minute. So so going back to January, do you then splash out a fair chunk of money on someone that potentially is not going to be there, or be part of the manager's plans going forward? So I think that's where he does the arrangement that we ended up with Norwich has suited everyone. It's an international player who's not getting regular game time, and of course there is the whole romance, you know, the Irish centre forward playing for Celtic and all that jazz. but he's getting game time. We're getting a template of the player that we want going forward, and and there's no object that we're under no obligation to buy. Norwich are in no obligation to sell, and it's very much across that bridge when we come to it in the summer. Now, listen, Stephen is correct. He's came on. He's had a big impact so far. He scored. He scored 2 penalties in the one game, which is that's been like witchcraft for Celtic this season. At a place where we hadn't actually won until this year. And of course, he's came up with the goods yesterday as well. So he's doing himself and his case no harm whatsoever. If he was willing to stay, I would be happy to keep him at this current moment. But I wouldn't be happy with him being okay, we've got Idah and that's the striking department sorted. I would want someone more akin to what Brendan's looking for. And like I say, I don't know the first thing about this guy for Brøndby, but it's a name that has been doing the rounds a lot more than any other player. And for what it gathers, Brøndby are willing to sell in the summer. So that's the kind of player you're looking for. But if there's an option there to bring Idah in, you would imagine that O would then be getting moved on. Then I would have no issue with that whatsoever. And he does seem to have a hell of a lot of joy scoring for Celtic as well. He doesn't look like he's up here taking the hump, as if he thinks he's better than this or anything like that. He seems to genuinely want to be here, which is always a good thing as well.
See, the crazy thing is, right? You brought up O. I don't think, look, this may sound way off, right? Idah, to me, yes, he scored the goals, but we've seen O score similar goals. We've seen O make impacts off the bench, even in European football. I think O is really explosive. He's dynamic. Again, he can hold the ball up very well. He's really quick over the ground. And if you finesse his game, then in the back of my mind, I'm going, why would Rodgers want to keep Idah? But then in the same token, if Rodgers fancied O, why would he bring Idah in? So there's the actor of 50-50. Does he fancy him? Does he not? Does he want rid of him? I just think O is unfairly labelled as not good enough. First of all, we haven't seen him. No, I know you're not saying that. I know you're not saying that, but I've seen people saying it. Like, he gets labelled this, but we haven't had enough game time to see him. He hasn't had a run of 5 or 6 games as being the number one striker to kind of put that label on him to stick. I think there's potential with O, and he wouldn't be getting called up for South Korea for nothing. When Klinsmann was there, and even though he's a bit part player for us, do you know what I mean? So there's something there with him, and I do want to see more of O. And at the moment, Idah, his form is stifling his development, which again, that happens when a striker's on form. You can't tell him to be shite for a week, so someone get a chance. Do you know what I mean? But I think there's something in O, and I think he's unfairly treated sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's fair, mate, and I think I've said that to you before. Obviously, and because it was the same transfer window that one left and one came in, even though they're not the same type of player, there's always going to be that comparison. Is he as good as Giakoumakis was? But people forget, in Ange's first season, for a while, Giakoumakis was deemed a complete write-off. You forget that, that penalty miss against Livingston.
Yes,
and then we didn't see him for weeks on end. There was actually a point where Albion Ayeti was getting in ahead of him in the Europa League games but that's how down the pecking order it went. But you could argue lucky for him, unlucky, however, destiny has its way of dealing with these things. But Kyogo got injured for a large chunk of the, obviously with the January break, but the winter period going into the spring.
Yep.
Kyogo had that injury, so it was a case of, well, it's on you, pal. And the biggest credit you can ever give Giakoumakis was he took that chance, he ran with it, and by God did he deliver. The amount of big goals that he came up against in those games. You think specifically that hat trick against Dundee, where we were behind twice in the game, or we were ahead and then Dundee pulled us back again. And although he didn't score against Rangers in the 3-0 game that night, he absolutely bullied the Rangers defence to shreds. Yep. and his physicality doing that allowed your Hatatis and your McGregors to do what they did best. Now, fortunately for us, probably as fans, Kyogo didn't have that run of injury last season, so Oz never really had that run in the team. And I've said a few times, I always think the way that Mikey Johnson, one of the first things you always think of Mikey Johnson, and when you're asked to think about him, is when he's 1-on-1 in a cup final into the Celtic end, that League Cup final day, with 10 minutes to go, we're hanging on, we're down to 10 men, and he's through on goal. He actually did most of the job right, and he puts it wide. And that's, for a lot of fans, that's the first thing they think of when they think of Mikey Johnson, maybe alongside the injuries as well. It's when you had that big moment, it didn't happen. Now, got his chance at Ibrox in the dead rubber game, or the most important game if you listen to Ailey Barber. But you forget Rangers scored quite early that day. I think it was TikTok Todd got on the end of a goal straight away. And then we kicked off, went up the park. Did everything right. And he tried like a sort of trick shot, and it went past the keeper and it hit the outside of the post and went out. And I can admit, I was watching the game in the Kerrydale at Celtic Park that day, and there was just a huge collective groan. And it was kind of, a lot of people, I think, made their mind up on that day that this guy just wasn't going to be a suitable replacement for GG. And I think he's always, even although he's then went and, scored the goal that secured the title at Tynecastle, and he scored a couple of, match winners this season as well, because he's never had that prolonged run of games, and his confidence is just, I think his confidence has been hampered with that. And the thing is, it's a shame for him, but this is a massive club, and it's ruthless. And if sometimes you only get one chance or a couple of chances, and if you don't take them in the way that perhaps a Kyogo has, or to an extent the way that Idah has, coming up big moments, effective from the off, you can very quickly fall behind. And it's maybe not through any real fault of his own that, like you say, Stephen, I think there's a lot of fans made up their mind on him. I certainly don't. I think there's definitely a talent there. You seen how happy Ange was when we got that deal over the line. But I think that was the happiest we'd actually ever seen him at a transfer.
For a signing.
He was delighted to get him in, but he's no longer in the building now. And just as we say, what will be with him. But I think at the moment, certainly, he's very much third choice behind Idah and Kyogo. And like you say, it's debatable who's first choice for Brendan at the moment as well.
Yep.
No, very much is. Moving the conversation on, I've got another two players I want to discuss. I'm going to measure them together, just being a little bit mindful of the time and a couple more points that we want to get across as well.
Don't worry about the time, McGinty. You're fine.
Work in the morning. We can't all be lads of leisure like yourself, Stephen.
Hold on, I work as well. You can't say
the two next players I want to talk about it's kind of the same vein that we've kind of been discussing there, but people taking a chance when it comes along. Who's the first choice? Who's not the first choice? Who his time went along too far? All these kind of things. I'm going to measure two of them together and try to keep them separate a little bit if we can. But Iwata, he started the game yesterday. Gets subbed off in the 77th minute. Did he play enough of a part? Keeping in mind, he played that first half, and the second half, obviously, he was involved in the upturning performance as well, but he did get subbed off for Bernardo. The other one I want to talk about, if we can, a little bit, is Scales himself, Liam Scales. Has the balance slightly changed now with Carter Vickers now back? He came on as a sub yesterday as well. The Rockies had a few games now as well. Could we see Scales drifting backwards into a squad player? He's played pretty much every single game this season. Deserved all the plaudits he's got, I think. But overall, can we improve on Scales with the players who are already in the squad? And should we, going forward, give Iwata a chance, replace Scales with Carter Vickers and or Navraki? Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, McGinty, you've started the thing in the comments. People laughed at me at the thought that I work. Yes, I do work, okay? Full time, week after week. So yeah, whatever McGinty tried to imply there, I'm not a man of leisure, put it like that. But I think for myself that Iwata came in and he does what a number 6 does. He keeps it simple, keeps the ball ticking over. He reads the game really well. He's very athletic. I remember that was one of the reasons Postecoglou said he signed him from Japan, because he had his eye on him and I think it was the summer window, but he couldn't get him, and he waited until I think it was the January we brought him in. And I think for me that me and Ross have spoken about this numerous times. He should be in that midfield as a number 6 with Calmack and O'Reilly in front of him while Rio Hatate is out injured. Hopefully, again, he'll be back soon. But I think Iwata offers you that kind of protection, the security that you're missing. And yes, Calmack is a good number 6, but he's never going to get stuck in. He's never going to, go shoulder to shoulder. Yes, we've seen it in fits and starts, but I think Tomoki has that kind of strength about him. He's robust. He likes a bit of a challenge. He's also very technical on the ball as well. And as I said, he can cover the ground really well. So I want to see more of him in the team. I found it interesting. I was listening to the people, the lads on Friday, talking about Scales and talking about the Narosky situation, obviously with Carter Vickers coming back. And by the way, he made a big difference when he came onto the pitch. He brought that calmness, the experience. You've seen it right away. The defence calmed down. I said months back, and look, this is not me going back in hindsight, but I remember having a debate about bringing Narosky in and playing him alongside Calmack and dropping Scales. And at that moment in time, it was kind of put down because Liam Scales was in the form of his life, which is fair enough when you look back on it now. But I think for me, my first choice would still be Carter Vickers and Narosky. I would just give him a chance, put him into the squad and see what can happen. The Liam Scales thing is a story. And again, like Anthony said, the cliche Irishman playing for a club of his dreams, coming from a small county in Ireland, making the grade with Celtic is fantastic. And while he's made that grade, he's had some fantastic performances in the Champions League, in the league, and the cups. I just think the last couple of weeks I've seen him take maybe an extra 2 or 3 touches on the ball, getting outpaced by players who wouldn't necessarily say are quick. And even against St Mirren, that was it Maldron or something they have up front. He turned like milk, but he made Scales look like cottage cheese. Do you know what I mean? It was night and day, and he couldn't run. And same with Theo Burr. I thought he had him on toast, and you're right, the point of the first half, McGinty, the warning sign was there from the get-go when that offside goal went in. They were targeting that side all the time. When we pushed the fullbacks forward, they were just going in behind, and they knew they had the beating of the centre halves. And that includes Narosky as well, not to be fair. But I think for me, I would just take Liam Scales out of the pressure cooker for a bit and see what Narosky can do, but alongside Carter Vickers. What's the worst that can happen? We paid upwards of £5 million for Narosky. And he came from Legia Warsaw. He was the first choice there. He played against a Rogers Leicester in the Europa League. I think he won a league title in Poland as well. So he's got experience. It's not as if you're trying to hang your hat on a young kid again like Scalesy. But yeah, I mean, does that mean Liam Scales drops back onto the bench? Maybe. But again, that's excellent squad depth, isn't it? Having a guy who's been exposed to the first team, played numerous games, played in Europe, you can call upon him anytime now. You know he's ready. He has the experience to do so. And again, I'm not trying to say that Scales has had a drastic drop off form. It's just wee subtle things I'm noticing. The first time pass he used to do, he's not really doing it as much. I think Narosky is really good at breaking the lines. Yes, sometimes the pass doesn't pay off, but he's being inventive. He's using his imagination, trying to get forward straight off the bat. That one-touch pass into the midfield for Calmack to turn and play forward into the wingers or whatever it may be. I just think Liam Scales has become a wee bit more predictable, and he's turning back on himself quite a lot. He's playing a simple pass to Welsh behind him and putting Welsh under pressure. So these wee things add up, and maybe it's a confidence issue from conceding goals and things of that nature. But yeah, I would bring Narosky back into the picture and see what he can do in a Celtic shirt.
Definitely. I think it's, when you think about the money spent and also Carter Vickers being the number 1 centre-back, if not one of the first names on the team sheet, you need to probably see the Narosky and Carter Vickers partnership to see what it can really do. Especially trying to hopefully look forward to next season as well, because for me, Scales is not the answer long-term for improving the overall quality, especially the starting 11. Anthony, back to yourself. With Scales, do you think it would be fair and reasonable to see him drop back into a squad player, knowing that Carter Vickers and Narosky's back in the picture now?
Well, I think sooner rather than later that's going to happen anyway. Anthony, obviously, it's as Stephen says, out with O'Reilly, Scales is, right up there for a nomination for Player of the Year. He's absolutely, without question, the story of the season. In terms of, we were absolutely not expecting him to be able to put in the kind of performances that he has on a regular basis, and he's been doing it since practically the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, I think where I worry about dropping him straight away is purely if we had a fully fit Carter Vickers, I wouldn't have any issue with it. But I don't know about you guys, but I've got the same kind of. You remember when Henrik came back and there was like any time he would sort of challenge and if he would hobble or anything after going up for a ball, there used to be that kind of silence around the ground going, just hope his leg's all right. Yeah. I think we've been guilty of doing that with not just CCV but Hatate as well this year. It's like that. Are they actually fully fit? And although it was great that Carter Vickers came on yesterday, looked assured, didn't nothing out the ordinary for him. But I just not quite sure if he's absolutely 100% fit yet, and I would worry about then taking Scales out to put in a Rocket play alongside a CCV who's not 100% fit, and then we go through this cycle again where he hobbles off and then we don't see him for another 5-6 weeks. So I think it might just be the case that perhaps through necessity that we might still have to see him until we get Carter Vickers fully back up fit. But absolutely, it's been the story of the season so far, but we're painting the picture here that all's going to go well, and then next season we want Brendan to be allowed to bring in players that he wants to bring in, and I would imagine no matter how well but even if he goes back to the form that he showed right at the start of the season between now and May, I still think there would be a hell of a lot of unrest if Liam Scales is starting next season as one of the two first choice centre halves. So. And it's just a shame, but again, as I go back to this is a club that doesn't stand still or shouldn't stand still, and I think Scales is terrific to have as a squad player and somebody to fill in, but I think he's filled in a lot this season, and credit to him for the performances he's put in. Perhaps, as Stephen suggests, there is maybe just that the season's catching up with him a little bit, and perhaps there has been a few lapses to where there wasn't at the start. But definitely for going forward next season, no, I don't think he would be the first choice. So that drop off into the squad role is going to come anyway. So if we can have a fully fit CCV in the Vrocky, then possibly that's the way to go.
No, it probably is going forward anyway. As you said, Anthony, it was a brilliant story. Sorry, Stephen, you were saying it yourself. It's a brilliant story to see Liam Scales come in this season, do fantastically well at the start of the season. I think the stat was that he actually has played every single game, which is mental to think that he has. But going into next season, the story should not be that Liam Scales starts as a centre-back. Unfortunately for Celtic, we've done this many, many times where guys like Liam Scales or Liam has been our centre-back option in the qualifiers or the early stage of the season, because we dilly on our transfer deals far too often. But stories are going and stories are concerned. There's a story breaking just now. Well, we say breaking, it's not really, is it? About who's a good girl and who's a bad boy. Turns out that Rodgers might be a bad boy for calling somebody a good girl. Who cares? What I want to know, though, is he right? He's made a couple of points already this last few weeks, especially just before the Kilmarnock game, that Celtic have been on a great run of results up until the Kilmarnock game. The narrative and the story being peddled by the media and from ourselves on this podcast, myself included, the performances have not been good, and we've all been sitting on edge waiting for drop points and kind of waiting to burst and vent at the abysmal performances that we've been seeing on the pitch. Is Rodgers right to kind of call that out a little bit, to say that the narrative and the story is wrong and that we as a club will write our own story, because this season is not finished yet? Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, Dion comes in here with a fantastic comment. Stephen, both of us from the north of Ireland do not feel like good girl is a saying here, good man, good woman, etc. I think it's ridiculous. This is being spun to something it's not. And I think that feeds into the whole narrative aspect of things that you were talking about there, McGinty. We won a game. right, to keep this title race going, keep it healthy, keep 2 points behind within touching distance, and the media want to create a storm in a teacup with Brendan Rodgers instead of focusing on a good result at Fir Park. So they're deflecting from that. I listened to the interview, and was it Jane Park? Is that her name? The reporter or something along them lines? I can't remember. Forgive me. But she kept asking him about the first half, and he told her once, "We're not talking about that. We're talking about the result." He then had to tell her a consecutive time, second time, and a third time. So you can understand why he got a bit peeved off. Look, that he said in a way that maybe came across a bit condescending, a bit patronising. But he was probably annoyed. He was probably frustrated at the line of questioning. At them was trying to the chip away, the Scottish media trying to chip away and get a negative reaction out of him, get him talking about transfers again, get him putting the Celtic board in the shit, just to get a headline to put in the papers instead of Celtic won at Fir Park, Idah rescues a day. That type of headline. No, they want to focus on something totally different. It's you could go into this all day, and Anthony, you'll have a far better kind of clear picture of what you want to say. I'm trying to muddle my words together here to create something because I'm afraid of saying something wrong that could make me land in the shit. But yeah, I think Dion's correct. Over here in Ireland, we say good girl or good woman or good man, good lad a lot. I say it in my workday, and yes, we'll have a laugh saying it as well, but it can be serious too. You can say it in a serious sentence. It doesn't mean you're sexist. It doesn't mean you're misogynistic or you have something against women. No, it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? And I've heard a lot of people say, and again, and most of these reports are coming from men, not from women. Most of the reports I'm seeing are coming from a certain section of supporters from another club. They keep putting it out there on Twitter, keep doing this, keep doing that. And I'm not really seeing anything from the women's side of things. Maybe I've missed it. Maybe I've missed the complaints, but no. And I don't think anything officials came from the BBC team at all. Look, maybe Rodgers might want to reach out to the reporter and say, look, this is not how I meant it to come across. Do it in private. I don't think you'll hear publicly from him about it. It'll be dealt in-house with both parties who were involved in that situation. And it wasn't a situation, let's get that clear. It was a passing comment. He got a wee bit annoyed and he moved on. And I noticed as well in the pre-match press conference with the BBC, he signed off by saying good man. So you can't have it one way and then you can't have it the other way. So again, it's let it go, move on. Celtic got a great win at Fir Park. The Scottish media are always going to try and throw shit at Celtic's door. And McGinty, you're right. Celtic need to write their own stories because this season is far from over.
No, definitely. And I think as you explain it there and reading some of the comments about how you guys in the northern part of Ireland, shall we say, how you say these words and say these phrases to each other, it's similar to anywhere else in the world where we all have
Lewis.
Jane Lewis. Yeah, we all have a little colloquial words I can't say way that we see things, and our little things like I'll say, I don't know. The way we see things is just where you're brought up and who you're brought up with. Things don't mean always what they look like they mean at the same time. And as you said, he said it so many times to other interviews. Good man. It's a non-moment. He might been standoff to her because of the line of question. As he said, she asked the same question in different ways 2 or 3 times. And even at that last question, he was just blatantly, no, we're not doing this. No. Okay, good girl, that's us, finish, go. There's nothing to it. He was probably trying to be patronising and close it down, but he wasn't doing it in a sexist remark, which is perhaps backing up what Rodgers is trying to say, that the narrative getting spun in the media especially is that Celtic are a disaster this season. And personally, performances, yes, have been abysmal. But results, as far as Rodgers has seen, as a manager of that squad, he's trying to get them focused onto winning ways, get the next 3 points, build on what you can, move forward onto the next game. And it's really hard to do that if you're constantly being asked those same questions of, how do you sum up performance that was lackluster, that you were, struggling to get the winning goal at the end, or you had to hold on to the last 15 minutes and all the rest of it. It's the same narrative. We win 1-0 or 2-1, whatever. We're terrible. But the other side of the city, they win 1-0 and it's a great grounded out victory for potential champions. The story is different depending on what side you're on. And I don't like to talk about Hugh Keevins too much, but he says it quite often himself. You can't have one. You can't have two being talked about positively in this city. One's good and one's failing, basically. And at this point in time in this season, it seems to be let's kick Celtic. Let's make Celtic look like the ones who are failing. And the more that you kick us and the more that they keep pushing this narrative, maybe it'll turn out true. And it kind of is. But hopefully, as Rogers has said, and Anthony will get your point on it in a minute as well, hopefully we're now about to write the end of our story ourselves and take that second half performance from yesterday and move forward with a positive narrative going forward. Anthony, your take on the saga as it is?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's mountain out of a molehill. Doesn't even begin to describe it. But we had an unlikely ally today. I don't know if anyone heard it on Talk Sport. We had an ally we would expect in Martin O'Neill, but we also had one in the guy who's normally, when it comes to Celtic, a bit of a rent-a-gob in Simon Jordan. Jim White doing what Jim White does best, and if there's a point to miss, he'll absolutely miss it. Was making out basically not even just about the comment itself, but the whole way. He was going, why was Brendan getting sort of prickly about the whole interview itself? Fact of the matter is, pre-match, Jane Lewis misquoted Celtic's but Brendan Rodgers' remarks from the Friday press conference. So I think he was pissed off on that front from the start. If Jane Lewis is not aware of why he would say what he said in terms of, we're not going there, there's a story being created, a narrative in the media, we're going to write our own story. If she doesn't know why he would be puzzled at the way Celtic have been covered this season, she's one of two things. She's either A, unbelievably incompetent at her job, or B, which I think is the more likely scenario, is that she knows exactly what she's doing and she's trying to do that thing that all journalists do, that rather than report facts, they report narrative and spin it as their version of the truth. And Brendan just wasn't playing ball yesterday. Take away the comment at the end, he's just going, I don't have to give you the time any more than the time of day than the minimum amount required. He has stood there, offered the opportunity for a range of questions to be asked. I don't think he would have any issue being asked about the first half. I think he's got an issue being asked about the first half, like you say, 6 or 7 times. There's only so many ways you can answer the same question without and remaining diplomatic about it. But the way that obviously Jim White then went on to the day and he asked Martin O'Neill about it, and Martin O'Neill summed it up perfectly. He says, no, the way that he's thinking that is, you guys, Chris Sutton was being asked during the score programme on Saturday if he was conceding the title because Rangers were now 5 clear, despite the fact that we'd obviously still to play. And he obviously looked at the host like they'd just grown a second head, and rightly so. Rangers were never asked to concede a title at any point this season, so why should we have to, just because we're suddenly a bit behind? And basically, Martin O'Neill and Jim White tried to almost hijack Martin O'Neill's comments and sort of say, why didn't he just answer it in the lovely, polished way Martin had just said? And Martin O'Neill pulled him right back up and he went, if I'd have been Brendan Rodgers yesterday, I would have said it in the exact same way that he did. And of course, perma idiot White took great offence to that. And then, to be fair to him, Simon Jordan tore him a new one as well, saying the reason why managers across the board act like this around you guys is because you can't be trusted. You spin your own, no matter how many times have we seen someone in a press conference say something and then it gets completely twisted and taken out of context so that these red top rags have got their headline the next day. And for on the comment itself, for these groups like the Daily Star and the Daily Mail to suddenly get all offended on Jane Lewis's behalf is nothing short of laughable. The Daily Star trying to have try to take the moral high ground on women's rights. If you really have seen it, do you know what I mean? The day we take lessons on morality for the Daily Mail, hell will freeze over. And but like as Stephen says and as Dion says in the chat as well, it's a term used in Ireland, and the north of England, you might say, the Geordies will maybe use pet. Us Scots sometimes say, hen. But further down, it might be love. There's no malice but behind it. It's not like he's, he's not went full Joey Barton on her. Do you know what I mean? It's basically it's just a phrase that those people use, and the amount of virtue signalling and getting offended on other people's behalf, as the boys were saying on Wednesday night, society's an absolute shambles now, and that's the first thing. Sadly, now if you do a Google search on Brendan Rodgers, I'm sure that'll be the first thing now. Not that he's won all these trophies at Celtic, not that he's won so many derbies, only lost one derby against Rangers in 15, 16. Not that he's won a FA Cup with Leicester City. It'll be some blue-haired brigade nut job taking offence at a throwaway comment after a game of football. It's just, sadly, it's the world we live in, boys. But needless to say, as Plunge says, hopefully he'll just say it next time, because he's got the luck of the Irish way.
Yeah,
see if he did give Jane Lewis a response, and for example, that again, this is just kind of thrown out there. If he said, "Yeah, first half we were lackluster," they would pick that word out and make a headline being like, "Lackluster Celtic scrape a win at Fir Park as Rodgers demands more." Something along them lines. Just one word can create a whole headline for people like that, and I understand why you get frustrated. And look, let's be fair here. Postecoglou was far more specky with the reporters up here than Rodgers has ever been. Rodgers just said, "Good girl," that was it. And I think it's just time to put it in the bin and move forward.
Yep.
And put it in the bin and move forward is exactly what we're going to do, Stephen. And talk about our own narrative going forward. Just the last kind of topic for tonight, just before we round it off. Let's talk about the game slightly on Wednesday. I know we'll talk about it a lot more after the match on Wednesday. But what's your thinking, guys, for Wednesday? Stephen, yeah, you're a bit more positive now after yesterday's result?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to get too carried away and say we're going to win 6 or 7. I still think we need to find a rhythm. As I said, a consistent 90-minute performance instead of one half diabolical and one half decent, if you understand what I mean. So we need to kind of put that picture together and move forward as a team. I'm confident with what I've seen in the second half, more because we looked like a team, we played like a team, we were egging each other on, we were celebrating as a team. No one looked like they couldn't be fucked. Let's be fair, it was just energy, and that's what I want to see carried into the Celtic Park against Dundee. And I know Dundee, they're indifferent this season. They always were going to be. I think their manager's Tony Docherty. He was the assistant to Derek McInnes for a long time at Aberdeen and Bristol City and teams like that. And he's got experience. I know they signed a few players. I know they've got a connection with Burnley. They've got a few players on loan. They've also got the infamous back. Owen Back is back at left back for Dundee, so it'll be quite interesting to see how he does it at Celtic Park, to see if the kind of clamour for him to come into Celtic was worth it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to chilling out and doing a wee post-match reaction. As you said, Anthony, we'll be doing that on Wednesday night to replace the double pivot. It'll be good crack, hopefully on the end of a good win. But the confidence is there. I take a lot from what I've seen in the second half. And like you said, McGinty, you want to see the second half tactics in the first half as well. So if we're going to be direct, we're going to get balls into the box. We need to do that from the get-go. And then I think that's going to produce goals and a good team performance.
And yourself, Anthony, how are you feeling going into Wednesday night's game?
Well, that's it. I'm quite looking forward to going. It's our first midweek game for a wee while since this kind of Christmas period. So yeah, looking forward to heading along, mate. And as we say, here's just hoping that we pick back up from how we did the second half on Sunday. It's just about getting it. Dundee have had a decent season so far, but the Community Park, there should be a big crowd. Hopefully, the crowd itself's also buoyed on by that performance, and just get behind the boys right for the word go, and I just get the business done and just send a message that we haven't gone away.
I'm so glad neither of you actually put a score prediction in there by chance, because we will get to that in a brief moment. What I do want from all three of us is a quick rundown. What do you think the lineup is going to be? Stephen, we'll go back to yourself first. Obviously, Adam, Idah, Kyogo, the back line. There's lots of debates in Iwata possibly. What way would you go with it?
I would go Joe Hart in goal, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Narosky, Taylor, Iwata in the 6 with McGregor and O'Reilly just in front. On the right hand side, I would go Yang in the middle. I would go Alameda. on the left, I'll go Dice and Mieta. That's what my lineup would be. But I didn't really have any debates in my head in terms of Kyogo dropping out, because you can't really say to Idah, come on and score 2 goals and not get a game midweek. So I think he's going to at least start against Dundee. I know we've done that a lot with Giakoumakis, but it might be different under Rodgers. But yeah, I think Yang has to come in. Kuhn has looked like an empty jersey anytime he stepped onto the pitch, bar the goal he scored. And it was a deflected goal at that. So yeah, we need a bit of directness from Yang. I think Johnson, without the mask, they can form up a good partnership on the right-hand side. And Taylor's come back in and, again, had a great performance in the weekend there against Motherwell, kind of back to his usual self. So yeah, that, and Awada, again, is a number 6 to kind of provide that base of being solid and the foundation for the attack to kind of bounce off that. So that's where I would go.
I'm going to jump in front of Anthony just because my lineup would be almost exactly the same. But as much as I think Maeda had a good spell in the second half of the game yesterday, I've swapped Maeda for Palmer. But the rest of it, I fully agree with the rest of what you just said. Anthony, where do you sit with the lineup?
I would actually say, like yourself, I think Palmer will start because it's a home game. Wouldn't have any issue if Maeda does start, but I got a sneaky feeling like yourself, Anthony. I think Palmer will start the game. And I think at the back, I think he probably will stick with CCV and Scales. But I think we might see a bit more in the Rocky as the season goes on. Whether that might be tomorrow night with the fact that, like I say, it's a home game. But I wouldn't be shocked if he sticks with CCV and Scales either. But apart from that, my team was the same.
Good. Yeah, I don't think we'll be too shocked. I think the biggest 2 changes I think we might see that Rodgers would go with is probably Maeda and not playing Yang. I think the wings would be a bit different to what the 3 of us are probably trying to allude to. And I agree probably with Anthony, although I agree with Stephen. Personally, I think Rodgers probably will stick with Scales and partner him up with Captain Brickers. But I think going forward, we should be looking at the Rocky going in there. So another thing that we've been doing as a group, obviously, is this weekly predictions that we're doing. And I'm just going to throw up the updated table that got eventually sorted this afternoon after a lot of I wouldn't say hassle, but a lot of backwards and forwards. Now, as we can see at the top, in nice green highlighted letters, is myself with 31 points. Joint second is James. 4th is Ross. 5th is Gavin. 6th is Willie. Anthony Dunn, you're down in 7th place on 19 points. Not a far way away. Franny equal with 19 points and Jed on 9 points. Stephen, I have no idea where your name is there. I can't see it.
Wow. I can't believe you just done that. I had a phenomenal score. 17 points has took me up the joint first. I will take it every day of the week.
You did indeed. The best result I think that any of us have had since we started doing this a few weeks ago. 17 points, ran right up that table into joint third with myself and James, shall we say. I'm going to try and bring these up in an order that will leave us 3 last on the predictions. But here's the guys' predictions for the upcoming week of games. Jed has went with County 1, St Mirren 2, Celtic 2, Dundee 0, Kelly 1, Rangers 3, Aberdeen 2, St Johnstone 0, Hearts 2-0 against Hibs. That would be an interesting derby game. Livingston 1 each against Motherwell. James has went 2-0 St Mirren against County. Bartlomiejowski's playing himself against St Johnstone and he's going to win 1-0. Celtic 2-0 against Dundee, Hearts 2-0 against Hibs. Again, similar result. Kelly 1-3 Rangers and Livingston 1-3, I believe that is, against Motherwell. Franny, same result again for Ross County St Mirren 2-0, 1-0 Aberdeen, 3-0 Celtic, Hearts 1-0 Hibs, Kilmarnock 1 each, with Rangers are actually very optimistic. And a 2-0 Motherwell win against Livingston. Ross is going with 1 each with County and St Mirren. That's a change. Go for a 3-0 win with Celtic and Dundee. 1 each with Kilmarnock and Rangers. Again, wishful thinking, I think, there. Aberdeen 2-0 St Johnstone. Hearts 2-0 Hibs. Livingston 1, Motherwell 3. Willie is going with Ross County 1 each with St Mirren. Have people just been copy and pasting each other's scorings here? Aberdeen 2-1 St Johnstone. Celtic 4-1 Dundee. Hearts 3-1 Hibs. Kilmarnock 1-2 against Sevco. I think that's probably quite realistic, but I think they'll get more goals than that. Livingston, I believe, is 0-2 to Motherwell. If I've done this right, Gavin should be the last one before us three. And again, it's County 1, St Mirren 2, Aberdeen 2, St Johnstone 1, Celtic 3-1 against Dundee, Hearts 1-0 against Hibs. I think everybody's picking Hearts for that one. Kilmarnock 0, Rangers 4, probably more realistic. Livingston 1, Motherwell 2. Stephen, we'll bring you up first. You're going with Ross County 1 each against St Mirren, Aberdeen 2-0 against St Johnstone, Celtic 3-0 against Dundee. Are you sticking with that after tonight's conversation?
Yes, sticking with that, yes.
Nice. Not that you're allowed to change it now anyway, but still. Hearts 1-2 against Hibs. Oh, are you the first one to take Hibs over Hearts, I think? Rangers 4-1 against Kelly and a draw with Motherwell Livingston. Anthony, if I can find yours, there it is. Ross County 1-0. I think that's the first time we've seen a county win there. Aberdeen 2-0 against St Johnstone. Celtic 4-0 against Dundee. Hearts 2-0 against Hibs. Kelly 1-1 against Rangers. Again, very hopeful. Livingston 1 each against Motherwell. And I have no idea what I've put. 3-1 for St Mirren. 2-1 for Aberdeen against St Johnstone. 4-0 for ourselves against Dundee. Hibs 2-1 against Hearts. I went for that one as well. And 4-0 for Rangers. I think it's probably quite realistic. And just for the lulz, because I hate Livingston and I hate that plastic pitch, 7-0 for Motherwell. We can only but hope that they go down.
100%. I agree with that one. The Genty, they're a shambles of a club.
They really are. So, boys, that brings us to the end of tonight. How did we feel? Stephen, thank you for joining us and helping out.
That was a great podcast.
Good.
Unbelievable. Good. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. What would I say? Obviously, shame Franny couldn't make it. You know, it's the dodgy Wi-Fi. Hope it sorts out for his Google searches later, if you know what I mean. But always a pleasure. Shared the screen with Stephen as well. That was a nice wee change. So, yep, all good. Feeling good after a good one at the weekend, and more of the same on Wednesday night, boys.
Oh, definitely, more the same indeed. It's a late kickoff, so Stephen, remind us, what time roughly would we be going live for the post-match?
Roughly about between 10 and 10:15, just depending. Excellent. So be between that 15-minute time frame.
And are we still calling it the cool down? Is that still?
It's still good. It's not up for debate, McGinty. It's the cool down.
So, guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Monday show. As Anthony says quite regularly, this is like the Monday Night Raw, the flagship show for the Endless Celts. That Friday Night SmackDown stuff is, the lesser, of course. But if you've enjoyed tonight, hit the like button, hit subscribe, share it with all your friends and families, and hopefully we see you all with a good victory on Wednesday night on the cooldown. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.